Hello, thank you for the floor, Marek. Can everyone hear and see me, or are there any issues? Let me tell you if the sound and the picture is okay. Perfect. Everything seems to be working all right. Excellent. So welcome to day 3 of Pearson EduOnline. And first of all, let me tell you how sorry I am that I can't be sitting on the train to Bratislava right now, because I was hoping to see you all in person, but things don't go always as planned. So let's try to make the most of what we've got. I'm also sorry about the background, because I assume, just like many of you, I'm self-isolating these days and I'm staying at my weekend house, so I'm sorry if the background doesn't look as professional as usual. And the final remark I'd like to preface my talk with, I'd like to express my thanks that you've booked an hour or 2 or even 3 of your valuable time in these difficult times to watch the conference and attend the webinar or webinars. So thanks for that. And let's try to make the most of it, which to me also translates as please close all your Facebook, email, Instagram, and other social media windows to make your time as productive as possible. Thank you. So let's get started. I'll maximize the presentation now, and now you should be able to see the presentation rather than me. And I'd like to start with a task straight away. I'm going to show you some teachers' answers, and I'd like you to think of what the question was. Okay, so read the teachers' answers and think of the question. The first answer is, every now and then, when I see something funny online, I bring it to my classes. The second teacher's answer, at the end of the day, when I just want to have a couple of minutes off, I show them a video. The third response, only as a reward at the end of the lesson if the students behave themselves. And finally, literally on every lesson, and encourage my students to look up the material themselves. Okay, so I can see that most of you have already guessed the answer, but I'd also like to check the poll window. So I'm going to publish a poll right now. You should be able to see it on the right of your screen. Have a look at the poll window and tell me what the question was. What are authentic materials? How often do you use authentic materials with your classes? Or is using authentic materials a must these days? Okay, I can see that all of you have got it right. Perfect. So today we're going to have a look at how to use authentic materials with teenage students effectively, avoid all the pitfalls, and make sure our students are benefiting from the exposure. And my first question for you is, how often do you use authentic materials? Again, please choose the answer which matches your situation most appropriately in the poll window. Again, on the right of your screen, there's a new poll published. How often do you use authentic materials? Okay, the numbers are rising quickly. Every now and then and every week seem to be the 2 most popular answers. Excellent. Okay, I'm happy to see that most of you use authentic materials on a regular basis, because authentic materials have quickly become something, they've moved from being something optional, an optional extra, or a reward the afternoon after a hard week's work, to something natural and expected that our students grew up surrounded by. Their world is highly visual, and so should be our lessons. So First of all, let's have a look at the pitfalls and the benefits of using authentic materials in teenage classes. Let's start with the pitfalls. Before I share what the pitfalls that I collected, I'd like to know your experience. Now, in the chat window, again, on the right of your screen, can you tell me what pitfalls you've come across when you tried to use authentic materials with your teenage students? What issues did you run into? Technical issues, that's a major drawback. Thank you, Aneta. The vocabulary was too difficult, or choosing the topic was too time consuming. The students didn't follow the subject. There was nothing new, nothing surprising for them. Time consuming seems to be a reoccurring answer. That's definitely one of the major drawbacks that prevents us from using authentic materials more often. Thank you. Perfect. Wow, I can see that you've definitely have something to say to this topic. So let's have a look at the pitfalls that I've run into when I tried to use authentic materials. First of all, as you mentioned, it's risky. You never know if the topic will be interesting and engaging for the students. Also, if not chosen appropriately, the language might be too difficult for their level, and as a result, it might demotivate them. And finally, just like most of you mentioned in the chat window, it's way too time consuming to find the right level appropriate and age appropriate material for every single lesson. But on a more positive note, what are the benefits? Most of you in the initial poll answered that you do use authentic materials on a regular basis. So why do you do that? What are the benefits that it brings to your classes? It gives you visual support, students love it, and it's exposure to authentic natural language. It's interesting, brings the real life into the classroom, motivating, more interesting, original, refreshing, wow, fun, natural. It makes communication easier. It lightens up the atmosphere. Wow, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for all your answers. Again, let's have a look at just some I've collected. As you said, it's visual. And it brings the visual aspect that students perceive naturally in their lives to the classroom. And it also brings the real aspect. It's motivating if chosen appropriately. Again, if you choose the right material, it can show your students that authentic language is not beyond their reach. And it provides engaging language input that ideally the students will want to replicate. And finally, it brings variety and makes the lesson more fun. Okay, so this is the introduction, so to say. And now let's have a look at some samples of mini lessons that avoid the pitfalls and hopefully bring all the benefits. Disclaimer, these are just bits and pieces that have worked for me and my classes. My aim today is not to give an exhaustive list of general principles to follow. So there's going to be no theory today. That's my starting point. Today, you're just my class of teenage intermediate students, and we're having some lessons together. I based the activities on my classroom experience, I mean face-to-face lessons, but obviously I adapted some of the activities to online purposes. So hopefully you'll be able to draw some inspiration from both approaches. Okay, ready for the first lesson? Here we go. The first lesson is called Just the Job, and it's taken from Focus 2nd edition, from the pre-intermediate plus or B1 minus edition. And first of all, as a warm-up activity, I'd like to wake you up a bit. I know it's 10 o'clock, but some of you might still feel a bit sleepy, so let's wake up. And I'm going to tell you some statements right now. And if your answer is yes, I'd like you to type a certain word in the chat window, okay? Here's an example. Please type sun in the chat window if you're wearing glasses today. Sun, good. Zdenka, Ivana, Darina, Yeti are all wearing glasses. Perfect, it works. Good. Sentence number 2. Please type spring if you've had a really repetitive job in the past. So type spring if you've had a really repetitive job in the past. Okay, not so many people, good for you. And the last one, please type Corona if you had a summer job as a student. So Corona if you had a summer job as a student. Okay, a few of you, perfect. Okay, now in the real classroom setting, fruit salad is played in a circle. We're sitting in a circle with the students and we physically swap places if. So all the students wearing glasses swap places. One of them is left standing in the middle, and that's the person who says the next condition. And you can see that since this lesson is called Just the Job, I gradually reduced the statements to job-related questions. Okay, let's get some real work done right now. Here, I'd like you to have a look at these 4 people. All of them run very successful businesses these days, but in the past, their work experience was not that positive. I'd like you to read about their previous jobs now and try to guess what each of the person did. What were their jobs in the past? And again, if you have an idea, share it in the chat window. And please always write the name of the person so that we know who you're talking about. Eva might have been a shop assistant, good. Or a waitress, why not? Okay, saleswoman. Marcus might have worked as a cleaner. You can't see anything. Okay, try to maximize the screen with the presentation if the words are too small. Chris could be a bartender. And Amy, a volunteer. That's a good idea. Okay, do you think any of the people might have worked as a window cleaner? Do you think any of them could have worked as a window cleaner? There's a reason I'm asking this. Marcus, okay, he seems to be the closest to them. Eva doesn't think so. Chris could have done that. All right, let's stay with the job of a window cleaner for a while now. Now I'd like you to think of some adjectives to describe the job of a window cleaner. I'll leave you 5 seconds now, and just for yourself, just in your head, don't type anything for now. In your head, try to think of as many adjectives to describe the job of a window cleaner as you can. Okay, ready? Here we go. Here are your 5 seconds. Good, let's leave it here. Did anyone come up with more than 5 adjectives? If you did, Great job, well done. But now let's share just one of your adjectives. Okay, so choose one of your adjectives that crossed your mind and please share them in the chat window. Diligent, clean, repetitive. Okay, any other? Uninspiring, brave. Okay. Dangerous. All right. Exciting. Wow. Physically challenging. Definitely badly paid. Boring. Tiring. Messy. Dull. Good. Good. Okay. I've already seen exciting. Does anyone think that the job of a window cleaner could be adventurous? Okay. If you don't, think again, because now I'd like to share a video about an unusual window cleaner. And just give me a second before I share that. And as you watch the video, we're going to watch a brief, sorry. Here we go. As you watch the video, because we're going to watch just brief snippets, I'm not going to play the whole thing. So as you watch, try to think of the circumstances that make the job of the window cleaner really exciting. Okay, let's start here.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Dallas is in the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa. He's going to a part of the building where only a few people are allowed to enter. He's going to meet the people who clean the windows. He gets out of the lift at floor 160. Then he goes to join the team of window cleaners who are preparing for their day's work.
I'm really nervous.
Dallas, you want to come over?
Yeah, to it. Okay, Dallas. Yep.
Step in. I'll check you out.
I was secretly hoping that it was going to be too windy today and it would all be cancelled and we could all just go. Somehow the windows would just clean themselves.
Unfortunately for you, no.
I'm absolutely terrified right now. I've never been this scared in my life.
Okay, some more snippets to give you an idea.
On the outside of the world's highest.
That will do. Okay, we're not going to do the feedback right now because that's beyond our time, the time that we have. But instead, I'd like to look back at the people in here. I'd like you to choose one of them and we'll try to provide similar circumstances that could have made the job of the person more exciting. So again, now in the poll window, please choose which of the people you'd like to discuss. So what we're going to do is we're going to think of circumstances that could have made the job of the person more exciting or more adventurous. Who would you like to talk about? Okay, so far Chris seems to be the winner. Okay, okay. All right, let's give it 3 more seconds. 1, 2, 3. Chris it is. Okay, let's move back to the chat window. First of all, let's decide what was Chris's job. Can you remind me what a job Chris did before he started to run a successful business of his own? Some of you suggested a bartender because he worked night shifts. He might have worked in a call center, takeaway guy. Okay. security guard. I think the security guard seems to be the most frequently mentioned answer. So let's stick to that. So Chris worked as a security guard and he worked night shifts. Now, what do you think? What circumstances could have made his job more exciting or more adventurous? Robbers, sure, a bit of adventure to the routine. Robbers, burglars, thieves, yes. Or meeting famous people, good. Or an interesting setting, not a shopping mall, probably. Music that he could listen to, good, good. Perfect, thank you. Again, in the real classroom setting, you would do this in pairs to maximize the speaking time that we have in lesson. But here, this is just a brief example of what this could look like. And I have one more video for you in store. This time, it's a vlog. I assume that most of you know the word vlog stands for video blogging. So basically a video where you ask a dozen people the same question and they give answers, something like a street poll. And the question today will be, if you could have any job in the world, what would you do? Now, in the chat window, what do you think the answer of your teenage students would be? Can you think of what your teenage students would answer if you asked them, if you could do any job in the world, what would you be? Hannah thinks they would be teachers. Wow, okay. Bloggers, bed testers, that's a job I would love, but are good. DJs, singers, millionaires, actors, okay, celebrity jobs seem to be a popular answer with your students. Let's have a look at the video right now and let's see if the people on the poll answer this the same as your students. Again, just give me a second before I open the video. And once again, we're not going to watch the whole thing, just this one question. So your task is to watch and compare the answers that people on the video give to your students' answers. And we're going to start here. So those of you who answered teachers, YouTubers, or bloggers, or millionaires got it right. Good job. Okay, and because I guess you already know the grammar focus of the lesson are conditionals, I'd like you to now share one sentence starting "if I could" about yourself. Again, using the chat window, write one sentence about yourself starting in "if I could." Anything that springs your mind. The only condition is that it has to start if I could, and it has to be about yourself. If I could go on holiday this year, I would visit Greece. Okay. Jitka would live by the sea. Ivana would stop Corona. Hannah would go out without a face mask. And Katarina would eat sushi. Camilla would go to Kenya. Victoria would visit her friends in Austria. Martina would be a traveler. Okay. All right, good. You're giving so many answers that I can't even read it all. Perfect, good job. So now we're going to choose the best answer. I've collected just some of these here. I'm going to give you 3, and I'd like you to decide which one gave the best answer, okay? So Jitka said that she'd like to live by the sea if she could do anything in the world. Ivana said that if she could do anything in the world, she would stop Corona. And Martina said that she would be a traveler if she could do any job in the world. So now let's vote for the answer that you like the best. So now please write just the name of the person in the chat window. Jitka, living by the sea, Ivana, stopping Corona, and Martina, the traveler. Okay, let's see, but Ivana seems to be the winner. Perfect. Thank you, Ivana. You seem to be the winner based on just the first sight of the chat window, and you win a special prize because now I'm going to do a little interview with you, Ivana. Are you ready? Please just type yes or no in the chat window. So we're going to do a little interview with Ivana right now. Could you please type yes or no? Good job. All right. So, Ivana, what job would you need to do to stop Corona? What job would you like to do? Would be most suitable for your skills and abilities? You'd be a scientist. Okay. And how would you persuade, or Darina mentions doctors? Sure. What means would you use to persuade the public that your research results are the right ones? What would you do to persuade the public that they need to do what you tell them to do? This seems to be a trickier question. Sorry about that, Ivana. Okay, let's change the question. Let's change the question to something else then. How long are you expecting it will take you, Ivana, to stop the disease? Okay, now you change your answer to a magician. All right, fair enough. Okay, I think we can leave it here. I think you get the idea. Again, in the real classroom, I do something similar, but a little different. It's called the snowball fight. Everyone writes one sentence on a piece of paper, again, using the target language, in this particular case, the second conditional. So everyone writes a sentence about themselves on a piece of paper. Then they crumple the paper, and we have a good old snowball fight. And once the fight is over, or once you say the fight is over, everyone picks one piece of paper from the floor. Excuse me. They read what's written on the paper, and then they mingle around the classroom and they try to find the author of the sentence. So in my case, it would be, for example, okay, if you could do anything in the world, would you stop Corona? And so on until you find the author. Again, to maximize the grammar practice time that you have available in the lesson. And then as a follow-up, in the real classroom, what you could do is to play a game of tic-tac-toe, again practicing the language for job description. So students play a game of tic-tac-toe, but they're allowed to win a square only if they describe the job which is in the square with an adjective. Or in the real classroom, you could encourage your students to make and film their own vlog, answering or asking the same questions or different questions. It's only up to you and your imagination. Okay, and that's the end of lesson 1. Let's move on now and let's have a look at lesson number 2, which is taken from High Note 3 this time, which is a bit above the previous level. It's more intermediate, upper intermediate this time. And I'm not telling you the topic of the lesson right now, because what I'd like you to do now is to guess where I am. Let's imagine that I'm in a place that is related to our lesson topic, and you have to ask me questions and find out where I am. But I can only answer yes or no questions. So now in the chat window, try to ask me yes, no questions and try to find out where I am. And I will answer yes, no. Europe. I could be in Europe or anywhere else in the world. Are you outside? No, I'm not outside. Are you alone? Well, I'm not alone, but these days, almost. Are you hungry? No, I'm not hungry. I can grab something to eat there if I like. Are you somewhere hot? No, I'm somewhere air-conditioned. Are you in a big space? Yes. Yes, I'm in a big space. Are you waiting for something? Yes, I am. Are you having fun? No, I'm bored. Eva thinks I'm at a railway station. Very close, Eva. Airport. Yes, I'm at the airport. Good job. So now in this lesson, we're going to talk about airports and flying. But first of all, I'd like to discuss the job of a flight attendant for a bit. And to do so, I'd like you to divide into 2 groups. Group A are people whose first name begin in A to L. So, or the Alenas and Lucias are in Group A. Group 1, notice, no Group A, B, or 1, 2, but Group A, Group 1. Group 1 are people whose first name begins in M to Z. So all the Susannas or Andres out there, you're in Group 1. So now I'd like you to beat each other with arguments, mind you, to give the other group some arguments. And Group A will share the best parts of the job of a flight attendant. Group 1 will share the worst parts of the job of a flight attendant. And we will see who will have the last say. So the aim is to present the final argument that the other group has nothing to say to. So does everyone know which group they're in? Do you know which group you belong to? Group A, Group 1? Okay, Martina does. Good, good, good. All right, so let's get started. Group 1 starts. So group 1, can you tell us one thing that is great about the job of a flight attendant? It's well paid. Good. Group 1, can you reply giving one argument why the job of a flight attendant is not so good? Passengers might be too demanding. Perfect. Group A, what do you say to that? What's another great aspect of the job? Traveling. Okay. Group 1, can you think of another negative side of the job? You have to deal with complaints. Good. Group A, any other ideas? You learn a lot about people. Perfect. Group 1, what do you think? Could be dangerous. Why not? Okay, this could go on forever. So let's leave it here. You're too good. And let's have a look at some more language that is the target of today's lesson instead, because many of you have mentioned complaints or dealing with passengers as a downside to the job of a flight attendant. So now I'd like to share these things that passengers said to flight attendants, and I'd like to use them to practice pronunciation. To do that, we're going to use an activity called 1, 2, 3. I'm going to explain how to do that. Choose one of the sentences that passengers said to flight attendants and try to pronounce it sounding as authentic as you can. First, just in your head. Pronounce it only in your head. Don't make any sounds. Second, mouth it. Move your lips, but still don't make any sounds. And third, say it out loud. Okay, so I'll leave you a while to read through the quotes and choose the one that you like best and that you like to pronounce out loud. And once you're ready, we can start. Okay, so focus on the quote that you chose. And first in your head, second, mouth it, third, pronounce it out loud. 1, 2, 3. Good job. Okay, although I can't really hear you right now, in the real classroom setting, this would be a group activity where each student chooses one of the sentences. They pronounce the complaints to each other, and then as group feedback or as class feedback, we would listen to the winner of each group, which sounded most authentic. Okay, and again, I guess that you've already found that the aim or the focus, the grammar focus of today's lesson are modal verbs. So we're going to practice them a bit more in the next activity called DIY jumbled sentences. To do so, in your classroom, ask your students to choose a nice long sentence from the textbook, copy it on a piece of paper, and then cut or tear the paper into pieces with individual words. Then they swap the cards with their partner, and they have to rearrange the cards to make the correct sentence. Now, for obvious reasons, we can't really do that here, but at least as a sample, I prepared this, and because you're really, really good intermediate students, I included one extra word which doesn't belong there. So now in the chat window, can you tell me which word should not be in the sentence? Okay. Yes, it's could. Could. Good job. Of course, could or may work either way, but the original sentence had may in it. But again, in the real classroom, you can work with any correct answers that your students are able to defend. Okay, so then the next sentence, the next part of the lesson, which the textbook presents, are tips how to pack like a pro. Hopefully this will become useful again one day. But what I suggest is skip the part in the textbook and have your students Google something authentic instead. Ask them to Google infographic on the same topic, how to pack like a pro when you travel, and let them share the best tips that they discovered online with the rest of the class. You might be surprised to see how interesting and how visually attractive information they might be able to come up with. And then finally, to wrap it up, you might want to play a game of taboo to practice travel-related vocabulary. I suppose that many of you are familiar with the concept, so just really quickly, in the game of taboo, you have to explain a word, give a definition, for example, of the word suitcase, but the card also includes words you're not allowed to use while you're giving the explanation. So in this particular case, you can't use the word clothes, pack, and travel. So you have to explain suitcase, saying, for example, something like, it's a thing where you put your things when you go on holiday. So something like that. So let's try it together really quickly. Here are the other words. Choose one of them and try to type a short definition of the word so that we're able to guess which word it is without using the other three words given. Eva says, object that can be heavy if you put many things on it and you take it with you on holidays. Okay, I assume that you're talking about suitcase again, Eva, perfect. Vacation for holiday, perfect, nice and short, but working. I realized that the words might be too small for some of you. Sorry about that. The words that you're not allowed to use are always below the big word in bold that you're supposed to explain. So let's take just one more. Marketa says a document when you need when you travel out of Europe, passport. Good job. Perfect. You get the hint. Now, again, with my real classes, I mean face-to-face classes, we play this as a running taboo. I have students on one side of the class and all the cards on the floor on the other side of the class. Students work in pairs and one of them always has to run to the other side of the room to grab a card, run back to their partner, explain the word without using the other words, obviously. If the partner guesses correctly, they swap roles and the other one runs to grab another piece of another card with another word, and they continue like that until we run out of cards. And the pair with most cards is the winner, obviously. Okay, and that brings us to the end of lesson 2. Thank you. You're such a great class to work with. I don't think I've ever had so proactive students in my teenage classes. Good job. All right, so lesson number 3. Again, I'm not going to tell you the topic of the lesson because I'd like you to guess the topic from these letters. So rearrange the letters and try to guess what we're going to talk about today. What's our topic? So in the chat window, if you think you know the answer, write down honesty. Good job, Millie. Yes, today we're going to talk about honesty and lying. And the first thing, or the first activity we're going to do is called Tell Me Something I Don't Know About You. Because I assume you're all sick and tired of playing 3 truths and a lie over and over again. So this is an alternative to that. Tell me something I don't know about you. Students work in pairs and they tell each other something they don't know about the other person, about their partner. Works especially well if the students are good friends, so it becomes more challenging. And the trick is that the person can either lie or tell the truth. And the task of the second person is to ask questions to find out whether the person is lying or not. So again, let's try this together now. I'm going to tell you something about me that you don't know about me. Won't be too difficult, I suppose. And please ask me questions to find out if I'm telling the truth or if I'm a liar. Ready? Okay, here's the fact about me. As a teenager, I trained as a horse riding acrobat. Ask me questions to find out whether this is true or false. As a teenager, I trained to be a horse riding acrobat. Did you know that? Where did you train? In a riding hall. It was a club for teenage kids. What was the name of your horse? My favorite horse was called Chiplenka. And what did you use to, sorry, I've lost the question. Have you ever fallen down from the horse? Sure, many times, you imagine. And did you have your own horse? No, I didn't. It was too expensive. It was a club of children and we all shared 2 horses to ride on. Okay, that's it. So now is the time to decide. Am I a liar or am I telling the truth? What do you think? True or lie? Most of you seem to think I'm a liar, but actually it's true. I did train as a horse riding acrobat for a few months as a teenager, not for long, but it's a fact. And again, when we do this activity with my teenage students, what they love using are these liar cards that they can physically hand to each other if they think the other person is lying. Some of you might be familiar with these cards from some of my other webinars. Okay, so now let's get to the authentic bit of this lesson. Have a look at this picture and think of what this could represent. What could this yellow and white picture mean? What might be the story behind the picture? You don't have to share your answers now in the chat window. Think of just for yourself. What could this mean? And now we're going to watch a video that will give you the answer. Again, let me open the video. Sorry, okay. And once again, your task as you watch the brief snippets of the video is to check your expectations. Was your assumption about the picture correct? And what does it really mean? All right, here we go.
This is
Things up a bit.
to test his theory. Dan and his team created
Final snippet.
in the
Again, we're going to do the feedback part here, but now you know that the picture represented the number of people who lie if the circumstances make it easy to do so. All right, and our final activity in this lesson will be something called Never Say Never. First of all, I'd like you to share one thing that you would never ever do. To give you an example, I would never ever eat a bug. I find it so repulsing. So now think of something similar. What would you never ever do in your life? And share it in the chat window. You'd never ever eat nuts, Barbara. Okay, I assume you're allergic to them. Yitka would never ever go parachuting, and Yiti would never ever smoke. Okay. Hannah would never ever eat a spider. Interesting. Okay. And let's wait if there are any more ideas. Blanca, if I saw correctly, would never ever touch a spider. A similar idea. And Sonia would never ever touch mice. All right, perfect. And because the activity is called Never Say Never, again, with your students, you would have them in pairs, and then they would have to ask each other, under what circumstances would you, and the thing that they said they'd never do, to see how many people would be okay and under what circumstances with doing that. So my question, for instance, would be, under what circumstances would you eat a bug? Again, to wrap up the topic of honesty, lying, and to practice conditionals a bit again. And that brings, I'm sorry, that brings us to the end of lesson 3. Perfect, good job. So just to sum up some of the principles that we've used in our lessons today, and that I believe help when you work with authentic or any other materials with teenage students is get the students moving, if possible, add the physical aspect to the classroom activities. Whether it's the fruit salad, swap your places if, or the running taboo, or anything else. Did you know that you can use physical activities even in online classes? Something like move this object around your room, put it next to a table, put it under the bed, and so on and so forth. Anything that will help your teenage students to get rid of the excess energy. The second principle was make it fun, whether it was the snowball fight or anything else. If you can't find a bit of authentic material, at least make it sound real. Just like we did with the 1, 2, 3 pronunciation activity when we tried to sound as authentic as possible. Whether it's because you just don't have the time or because you want to be time efficient, let your students do the job for you. Whether it's finding information online or preparing a classroom activity, just like the jumbled sentences when we had to rearrange words to make a sentence again. If possible and appropriate, replace the textbook with something else that works the same and that is authentic. Again, make it physical and include as many total physical response activities as you can. Create expectations before you start working on a piece of authentic material, whether it's a video or a short text. And finally, make it visual. And maybe one more final guiding principle, always use some pre and post activities. Something that you do before the activity to create expectations and prepare the students for what's expected of them, and then some follow-up activities that will make the session meaningful and that will make sure that the students practice the target language on their own, and that makes sure that it's not just a standalone activity. Okay, all the activities that I've used today are taken from these two textbooks, Focus 2nd edition and High Note. Both of them are just great for teenage, high school, or secondary school students. If you're interested in the sample, because we realized that in a webinar you can't just flip through the textbook that you would normally be able to do on our stand. So instead, we'll be happy to mail you a sample. If you're interested, have a look. That should be published right now, again, on the right of your screen. And let us know. Not yet. Where is that? Okay. Okay, it's published right now. Perfect. So in the poll window on your right, let us know if you'd like to receive a sample of one or both of the textbooks, and we'll be happy to mail you one, as I said. And also, because we couldn't stand the thought of denying you the final raffle, as Marek mentioned at the beginning, we have a quiz question for you. So if you answer the quiz question correctly in the chat window, my colleagues will collect all the correct answers at the end, and you have a chance to win some nice prizes at the end of the conference. So my quiz question is, what kinds of students is High Note ideal for? So you can share your answers in the chat window. As I said, my colleagues will collect all the answers, choose the correct ones, and then draw some lucky winners at the end of the conference. And that's about all I have to say. Well, thank you very much for having me today. You've been a great audience to work with. As I said, I don't think I've ever had such proactive teenage students in my life. So I hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference. And I'll also hope that we'll be able to see each other sometime in the future, either in a webinar or face-to-face. Bye-bye.